Sometimes we are too close to the process to see where the real issues are, and having an outside perspective can be super helpful. Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5, and I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. And it is a solo with Beth episode. As you might already know, I love systems and processes and know the difference it can make to your business when you don't have strong systems and processes in place. However, knowing that you need to work on your systems and processes and actually working on them are two very different things. I get it. It can feel like the Mount Everest of tasks, and even knowing where to start can be tricky to work out. So today I wanted to talk to you a little about some of the things that you should think about before you get started. Consider this a little pep talk to help you feel motivated. So the first step is to acknowledge that making these changes will ultimately save you time, reduce your stress, and allow you to focus more on the creative aspects of your work. It's not always going to feel like that when you're putting them together, but remembering that and kind of holding on to that as the end goal will help you get through it. Okay, so the first step is recognizing the need for change. This first hurdle is often the one where people fall over at. Recognizing that you need better systems and processes is so important, and it is so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day hustle and ignore inefficiencies. You're so busy working that you're like, I don't even know when I'm going to have time to work on making this better. So the first thing is to identify the pain points. Begin by identifying those areas that cause the most frustration. Is it project management, client communication, budget tracking? For example, do you find yourself juggling multiple emails and forgetting key details from clients? Or maybe tracking expenses feels like a never-ending task. Also, talk to your team and even your clients, or possibly the trades and the builders that you deal with. They will be able to offer valuable insights into what's not working as well as it should be from the other side. Sometimes we are too close to the process to see where the real issues are, and having an outside perspective can be super helpful. Step number 2 is overcoming fear of change. Now, I will admit I am not the best at change. I'm fine when it happens, and sometimes I'll just jump in and not really think about all the consequences, because if I think about it too much, I'll never get anything done. But change can be daunting, especially when it involves altering how you've been doing things for a long time. So these are a few of the things that I've found that worked for me, but think about how you deal with change and how you think you could work around that. So start small. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. Pick one area to focus on initially, and then just slowly work away at it. For example, start with improving your project management system before tackling financial tracking. Now, you might break that project management system down into 10 or 20 tasks and just focus on each of those tasks one at a time. Also, Making sure you've got a clear goal. Why are you working on this? Define what you want to achieve with the changes. It might be that you want to take on a new team member in the next 12 months, so you want to be ready for them. Or it might be that you're aiming to reduce the time spent on administrative tasks by 20-30% within the next 3 months. Having something that you are clearly working towards that is measurable really does help. So the next one is all about finding the right tools. Now, as someone who has developed a software tool, I am aware of how many applications are on the market. And it's not just software, there's templates, there's notebooks, there's a whole plethora of things. But having the right tools can make a significant difference in streamlining your process. But you've got to have the right tool. So the first thing is about research and compare. Have a look at what tools you are using now. It might be a notebook, it might be software, it could be templates. Look at what they offer and see if there is a better tool on the market for what you are wanting to achieve. Sometimes we have just been using something for so long that we aren't aware of how efficient it is or that what kind of new things have come on the market. But don't just jump in. Compare the new features, pricing, and reviews and see if the new tool is going to help you run your business better than what your current tools do. And then it's all about trial and error. Don't be afraid to test a few tools before settling on the best fit for your studio. Like More Time to Design, a lot of software options offer free trials, so really take advantage of them. And dedicate time each week to explore and evaluate these tools with your team or just by yourself. That's one of the things that we see a lot at More Time to Design. People jump in and they sign up for a trial and then they don't look at it. And I think that's one of the things that is so important. You have to make a commitment to work on your systems and processes. And that does involve spending some time every week on them so that you are making slow but gradual changes. Okay, so step number 4 is training and implementation. So you've chosen the tool and you're working through the processes you want to implement. The next step is to ensure everyone is on board and knows how to use them effectively. So regardless if it's just yourself or it's a team, organize training sessions. Set aside time in your calendar to work on it. Ensure everyone understands how to use the new tools and also understands the benefits they are going to bring. You might take advantage of free training that software companies provide or support calls like we do at More Time to Design. But you really do have to set aside time to learn how to use the platform. It's just like if you decide to run a marathon and you do no training, you're going to struggle. But if you do a little bit every day or every week, then by the time you get to the marathon, you're going to be able to do it. The other thing that's super important is to develop documentation. Make sure that you are putting together easy to follow guides and manuals for reference for your team. This will help with onboarding new team members and serve as a refresher for any existing staff. Include step-by-step instructions, screenshots, and even links to like screen recordings. I am a massive fan of Loom and I use it so much. I use it to explain things to people who are trialing More Time to Design, or it might send it to a graphic designer or the developers. I am the biggest fan of screen recordings, and I think that putting them into your documentation is so helpful. Okay, number 5, staying consistent and flexible. The key to successful implementation is consistency. However, it's also important to remain flexible and open to adjustments. So just like anything, when you put in a new system or, a new process, how you think it's going to work in theory might just need some tweaking around the edges as you actually put it into practice. So, especially if you're working with a team, just getting some feedback on the systems and processes as you go along is so important. And this next one relates back to, staying motivated and the goals that we've set. Celebrate those small wins. Recognize and celebrate the improvements, no matter how small. This is really going to help you stay motivated to keep going. And share the success stories with your team and highlight how these changes have positively impacted your business. The other thing that I think is really important is about building a support network. So there are so many interior design mentors out there these days, and also community, like interior design community Facebook groups, which are really, really helpful in kind of bouncing ideas off how other designers do it. Things like, our podcast episodes where we kind of go behind the scenes of other interior designers firms. I think that's so important to understand that you're not alone, and that just getting that insight into how other interior designers run their studios. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope you kind of found it a bit of a pep talk for you to maybe start thinking about what are the systems and processes that you want to work on in your business. What are some of the things that you're finding challenging, and even kind of thinking, what is stopping you from looking at your systems and processes? I would love to hear from you. Of course, if you've got any questions about systems and processes, I'm always happy to help. So yes, and of course, if you're enjoying the podcast, I would love to hear from you if you have any questions about systems and processes, and obviously happy to help. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next week for our next Design Dialogue. Thank you for listening to this Design Dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.